UFOs and Jinn, a comparative study. The first thing I want to look at is presentation and interaction. Now, when it comes to the phenomenon, now, another thing what's very interesting, Paul, is, yes, there's been a lot of interest since 2017, and we're getting a lot of information through the media and the government, about, craft that these pilots are witnessing, whether it's in the form of orbs or metallic craft, or sometimes very strange objects like transparent squares with circled spheres inside them and strange things like this. It goes way back, right? When I started to research this topic, if you read the works of Dr. Jacques Vallée, or John Keel, and many others, even D.W. Pasoka, you see that they trace the history back. You see every tradition, every culture has spoken about encounters with either space beings or supernatural entities. You have it in Celtic law, you have it in Irish law, the good people, the fair people. You have it in Native American law. They refer to as skinwalkers, and they call them other things as well. You have it amongst African law and traditions. You have it within the Asian subcontinent. You have it across the world. Every culture and tradition in history has spoken about non-human beings that visit them or appear to them, and normally they are linked to the sky or coming down from the sky. Even going back to cave paintings and stuff. Prehistoric people, you'll see cave paintings, especially in places like in Utah in America. We have, still remnants of the natives and their work, stonework that they've done, and the inscriptions that they've put into stones. You see images of these beings that they depict, etc. So it goes way back. It's not just, it all starts in 2017, or even it all starts in 1947 with Roswell, the famous Roswell incident, or Kenneth Arnold's sighting a few months, I believe, before that. It goes way, way back in history. And when you read the history on it, you see that these events have been taking place. People have been experiencing things throughout history. It's not new. It's not a new phenomenon. Mm-hmm. What's also very interesting is that people like Lou Elizondo, the whistleblower, and many others, David Grush, when they've done podcasts, they've also mentioned this. It seems like they've studied this as well, and they will both mention that this stuff goes way back. D.W. Pasoka, she's had access to the Vatican. She's gone through some of the archives, and there's stories of saints in the past in Christian history that have experienced, experiences with supernatural beings and lights and things in the sky and all of this type of stuff. So the history of this is very interesting. But the general presentation, the main sort of categories, if you like, people see orbs. These could be orbs of light of different varying colors, where they could be in their homes, it could be outside in forests, it could be in the sky. Some people have, or many have reported metallic looking craft of different shapes and sizes that sometimes materialize and dematerialize. People have had encounters with beings that appear to them, sometimes in their homes again, or when they're out somewhere. Different types of beings. Normally, many of the reports we hear of are the classic gray beings with big eyes, gray skin. And then you have other strange cryptid creatures that people have seen. Very strange, sort of half beast, half men, and very strange sort of things. So people have reported these types of things. So this is the sort of general appearance of these entities or this phenomenon that we hear of. Now, what's very interesting, the first sort of point of comparison, there's a very interesting narration by the Prophet ﷺ, where he mentions that the jinn appear in three forms. And this is not restricted to just three forms, but these are the three main forms that the Prophet ﷺ is mentioning. Those that appear in the form of dogs and cats, or dogs and snakes, meaning animal-like creatures. Those that come and go, appear and disappear, and those that fly through the sky. So these are sort of three key categories that the Prophet ﷺ himself has mentioned. And when we think about these categories in reference to the jinn, and you look at the phenomenon, there's things people see in the sky floating around, there's things that people see that come and go, and there are beings or entities people have seen. We know that shayateen, at least the shayateen, the evil amongst the jinn, have appeared to people in the form of human beings. There's a narration of or a hadith by Abu Huraira where he mentions that he was put in charge. It's recorded in Bukhari. He was put in charge of the charity. And as he was safeguarding the charity, on 3 nights back to back, a man appeared who stole from this charity. And Abu Huraira threatened to take him to the Prophet, peace be upon him. And each time he made an excuse and he got away. And on the third night, he was going to take him, and he said, look, I'll give you something and I'll share something with you. And he shared the Ayatul Kursi, which Muslims recite. And he said that this will protect you if you recite this. So it's very interesting. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he later went to the Prophet ﷺ told him or informed him that this was the shaitan. This was an evil jinn, because the shaitan is the jinn that appeared to you. And he actually told you some truth, although they lie, and he did lie. So we know the nature of the jinn is to lie and to deceive, which again, we'll touch upon as we go along. There's a very interesting book, Alim al-Jinn wa Shayateen. This book, The World of the Jinn and Shayateen by Sheikh Umar al-Askar, Dr. Umar al-Askar, is a very, very interesting book. It's probably one of the best books in the English language on the topic of the jinn. Probably the most comprehensive that I've come across. Along with this, if you're looking for more of an academic book to sort of accompany this, although this is very academic as well, there's a book called The Intelligent World of the Jinn. I think I have it somewhere further down in the slides. Again, that sort of tackles it more from a Arab history perspective as well. But what he mentions in his book is that, the shayateen have throughout history appeared to people in the form of men or other beings, and they have, deceived them or tried to deceive them in this manner. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, for example, Ibn Taymiyyah mentions in the Essays on the Jinn, which is, again, a phenomenal read. And it really blows your mind when you read it in regards to the jinn, because he mentions certain things which
I didn't come across that by Ibn Taymiyyah, actually. It's interesting. I'll look it up.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's a very short book.
Right. I must
short book.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good read. And what you read there, I mean, it's mind blowing, because for example, I'll give you an example. He mentions that some of the Sufi sheikhs that were present at the time when Ibn Taymiyyah lived, they were visited by the jinn, and the jinn, in one part, he mentions that they were given a device by the jinn. Now, this was like something like a glass panel with water flowing over it. And through this device, they could communicate with the jinn, and they could receive information through this device and communicate with people in distant places. Now, it's very interesting when you read this description. I mean, it's very similar to the modern mobile phone, if you think about it. I mean, one could speculate that what's been mentioned, like a glass-like surface where information comes up and you can communicate with people at long distances and stuff like this. This was in Ibn Taymiyyah's time. He's mentioning this stuff. So these people were given these devices by the jinn. And this one point this highlights is that the jinn, you can say what we refer to as technology, that they possess their own forms of technology that they've shared with people. It seems like, at least from the accounts of Ibn Taymiyyah, with people throughout history, obviously for something in return. And we know that the dealings with the jinn are never for the benefit of the human beings. Although, some of these so-called magicians may believe that they're really benefiting. At the end of it, they're going to lose. They lose out. But nevertheless, it's interesting that these devices are spoken about. He also mentions that some of these people, the jinn, would appear to some of these disciples of these sheikhs at the time. And they will see their sheikhs flying through the air, and see them when they were in trouble somewhere and to help them out, and then they'll return to the sheikh and say, you helped us out. Again, the jinn would have taken on the form of that Sufi master or the Sufi sheikh at the time and appear to his disciples, just to, again, build up the credibility of this particular individual, etc. So we read of accounts of them appearing or taking on the form of men, of people, of animals. Snakes is a very common one. There's other narrations of them appearing in the form of snakes, which this is one I'm going to mention later on. But I guess the point here is I'm trying to emphasize is that a key concept in regards to the jinn is that they can take on different forms. They can take on physical forms. They can appear in the form of other people, and they can appear in the form of other animals or other creatures. It doesn't seem to be the preferred way of affecting human beings. Waswasa seems to be the main form, which everyone gets time and again. Whisperings of shaitan, where he whispers to you in his own voice, in your own mind, in your minds, and he affects you in that way. But time and again, you see that there is the appearance, shaitan or the evil jinn take on the form of people and appear to human beings for whatever reason. And the fact that they could take on different forms is very interesting, right? This means that conceptually now we have a framework by which, so so let's just take the example, a gray alien being, conceptually, is it coherent to sort of argue that it could be a jinn taking on this form? Yes, because they have the ability to do so. So it's an important piece of information for us that they could take on these forms. So in the presentation, it's quite startling that there are some very interesting similarities. Balls of light, orbs of light, things that fly through the sky, the appearance of strange creatures, animals, other beings, humanoid type of beings, etc. There are some very interesting similarities, right? And the jinn can account for these appearances, whether it's in the form of a grey or another cryptid.